Well, welcome along to the Gary Neville podcast, which today comes to you from the Emirates, where we've just witnessed Arsenal going back to the top of the Premier League table, but it was a mighty close victory over Newcastle, Gary.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think the word is exhausting. The Arsenal fans, I mean, they're enjoying it now. They're relieved, but I mean, for the last 20-25 minutes, it was uncomfortable for them, and you felt that discomfort, didn't you? I mean, they're right next to us here. I don't know if you know, you can spin the camera just towards sort of the fans right behind you. You hear every single shout, but they didn't play with urgency in the first half. They got in front, and you're thinking then, okay, was it 10 minutes, 11 minutes to go?
Minutes, yeah.
And I thought Newcastle started the game quite well, but then you think, okay, back players, less touches on the ball, play it forward. Two midfield players, don't drop back into your back four and sort of end up getting it deep. And then when you end up playing it long, you're disconnected. So a lot of things they did in this game weren't great from a point of view of tactically. I mean, they're very good defensively, and they really work hard, this Arsenal team. One thing that you can never say is, and it's worth, noting, they really do sprint like crazy to get back into their shape, and they defend really well, and they're compact, and they're so well organised, and there's a lot of respect needed for that, because there's a lot of teams that you watch and they leave lots of spaces in between them everywhere. But I actually think this Arsenal team, to be fair, they get back into their shape really tight every single time, and that is something that you should be really proud of. And it can win you a title. Clean sheets. Back in the day, we weren't really a 1-0 team, but if we got a 1-0, that was almost like the ultimate test of your concentration and your endurance and your resilience, because you know how difficult it is. You're one moment away from something being taken away from you, and a trauma in a title race. So really got great respect for them for that. But what you want is that expression, that freedom, whereby they play forward, they go forward, they run forward, and they do things a little bit more certain, with a bit more certainty in their attacking play, and that didn't come at all today. I can't think of a really good chance at all, and there might be, because we're at the end of a game and it feels like a blur. The goal comes from a set piece, and we'll talk about that shortly, but I can't think of other chances that they created in open play, because they get the ball into the final third, and then they do tend to recycle it quite safely at times, and that's been a criticism of mine of them for a couple of years now. What's your idea? I understand, by the way, recycling the ball around the edge of the box. If you're 2-0 up, if you're 3-0 up, try and draw them out, let them get frustrated, work them, move them from side to side. But they're not doing that. And when they're moving them from side to side, they're not doing it quickly. So sometimes you might move it from side to side and recycling it so that a team have to sprint across, and you're wearing their legs out and you're fatiguing them. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing them sort of almost amble from side to side with the ball, where someone takes a touch and then another touch. And Newcastle's players are not really having to move at all. They're just standing in front of you like this. If you move it quickly, then the Newcastle players have to sprint across. That's not happening. And if you're moving it from side to side, you're working it so that you can get a 1v1 in a wide area on the opposite side, so that a wide player like Madueke or Eze can go and do something. So I don't see the idea sometimes. And they're not positive enough, and they're not building up sometimes to get to a point of a cross where you can say, well, a player's getting into that channel over there. Sometimes think De Bruyne at Manchester City. They'll move it across, and all of a sudden De Bruyne will put it there, and all of a sudden there's going to be three players at the back post, and he'll whip it in like that. I'm not even seeing that, so they've got to somehow build some simple ideas in this next few weeks. I'm not sure that's going to happen, in open play, of what they're going to do to be able to start creating chances more against teams that play deep like Newcastle did at times. So, yeah, it was a really frustrating day for the fans. Brought anxiety, brought nerves. Really uncomfortable, but they got over the line, and they deserve real credit for that.
Quality goal in terms of the finish, but you mentioned set pieces. We're used to seeing Arsenal score goals from corners, but it was a different kind of day from that perspective, wasn't it? Because we saw one go short, led to nothing, groans. Second one go short, led to nothing, groans. And then the third one, which went a little bit longer, leading to the goal. I mean, would that actually be scripted to sort of try a couple of times to Odegaard? If it doesn't work out, go a bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that they need credit and respect putting on them for their defensive resilience and how they get into their shape every single time and work hard. But they also do deserve massive credit for what they've done with those set pieces today, because I reckon 99 out of 100 teams when your fans are groaning after the second one, you're definitely playing it into the box on the third one. But they did it again. And the only way I can describe it, it was almost like, and I've never boxed in my life, I've never thrown a punch in my life, so I don't know why I'm giving boxing lessons all of a sudden, but it was almost like a sort of a fighter going sort of punch to the ribs, and almost like the other guy, and all of a sudden goes over the top. It was almost like that. They were almost like probing with one area, but then coming in, and what they were trying to do is work out that space of how they got it into that pass into Havertz. And Eze was obviously the key at the edge of the box. I mean, it's an exceptional finish. It is an absolute beauty of a finish, that, from Eze. It really is. And he's the one that looks free. He's the one. I mean, Madueke looks a little bit free. Saka, when he came on, the rest of them do look a little bit sort of what would be rigid. Whereas actually Eze looks like he's got a little bit of the sort of the confidence, and there's a bit of a swagger still about him. And yeah, that really well worked. We know Arsenal are obviously the best in the league at set pieces. You're right, we're expecting those drifted balls in, aren't we, with Gabriel and the others moving across the near post and one of them getting a flick in and scoring. But Newcastle have Chow, Botman, Byrne, Asula, 4 big lads. Voltemada came on as well. So I think they're 6'4", 3 or 4 of them. So I think they thought it's going to be difficult for us to be able to get the sort of run on these types of lads. They're good in the air, they really are. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and sort of draw them out and pull them away from and create more space, and then play a short one. So look, well done to them for their analysis. Well done to them for their, more than the analysis, it's been identified, but then the players have had the nerve on the pitch to carry out the instructions through pressure from a lot of fans behind that goal and behind us here, because they were groaning like crazy, and there was even a boo when they went short on that second one. So they've done brilliantly with that, and set pieces are a big part of this Arsenal team, and it's meant that they've basically come up trumps today because of it again.
It is the strange thing, isn't it, about this place where they haven't been champions yet, that you get all that pre-match atmosphere with the song that they sing here, and yet from the first whistle and even after they've scored the goal, you can still feel that real edginess all the time.
Yeah, you can. You can feel the edginess. You can feel it's a crowd that haven't seen it for so long, or haven't seen it at all for a lot of them, and that comes across. But it's a group of players that haven't seen it before either, and that comes across. The whole thing is going to be, like you say, for the next few weeks, just if they get over the line, they're going to have to be wheelbarrowed over the line. They are. They're not going to sail over the line without a shadow. They're just going to have to be carried, crawl, almost like that. You know what I mean? Get me there. You know, if they get over the line, it's going to be a real struggle. They're just not going to all of a sudden hit form, I don't think, in this next couple of weeks. They've got quite comfortable fixtures. I mean, we said before the game today, maybe it's a little bit disrespectful to Newcastle because they played really well in the game. That is the perfect team. They're not involved in a relegation scrap. They're not involved in European race. They're almost, if you like, thinking about the summer and next season, and sort of Eddie Howe's probably thinking about what the plans are for transitioning this team and squad. They've got World Cups, quite a few of them as well, so they're probably not getting injured. It's the perfect team to play against. But then what that means is that they're quite relaxed. And so they come out there today. And look, I do want to mention the midfield. I mean, look, I do like Newcastle's midfield. I think Tonali, Guimaraes, and it was Willock today. They're bloody good. They're good players. They could play in any team, by the way. You could put Guimaraes in any team in the Premier League or in Europe. You could put Tonali in any team in the Premier League and in Europe, and they would not be out of place, and they'd sing and dance in there, I'm telling you. Because I actually think, I thought at the start of the season Zubimendi was a great signing. I think he's been a very good player for Arsenal. But right now, I was expecting this is where Zubimendi would really sort of, if you like, be the player. What's going to be the difference player? I thought Gyökeres would be that player that would get the goals for them in these big moments and get to 2-0, and his bit of lack of quality at the end was poor on that counter-attack, so he's got to do better than that. But I thought, you think of what Pirlo is, or a Scholes, or a Rodri, the player, Bernardo Silva, the player who can dictate play in a game like this, a player who can get Arsenal on the ball, who can organise, who can get them with authority, and he's not demonstrating that. He's struggling in the games, and he has done for a few weeks now. So I don't know whether they can somehow. I mean, Ødegaard does it better. I think Ødegaard went deeper, but the problem is when Ødegaard goes deeper, and then Rice goes deeper, and then Zubamendi's already deep. You've got 3 players back there, certainly 2, in deep areas. And you can't really have that. You want them to obviously be rotating with each other, and you want one of them back there to make a link play with the defensive side of things and the fullbacks. But yeah, it just felt to me like Zubamendi today, Rice and Ødegaard, I thought they actually got outplayed by that Newcastle midfield. I don't know what the possessions here. There you go, 55% to Newcastle, 45% to Arsenal. Surprising, very surprising. But not surprising in the sense of how I saw that midfield for Newcastle play. I thought Tonali and Guimaraes were far better than the Arsenal midfield play. So, yeah, a bit of thinking to do for Mikel Arteta around the midfield in terms of how they can get control of games, how they can show authority, keep the rhythm of the passing. The back players, the 2 centre-backs, are a little bit... They're a bit wooden, aren't they, on the ball? They're very good defenders. I like them a lot. But they're just a little bit wooden on the ball. Sometimes when they run out, it looks like, you know, they could hit someone as they sort of like a charging bull, aren't they, sometimes, when they sort of run out, Gabriel and Saliba. So I think just how do they simplify it and get Zubamendi on the ball a lot more in these areas and let him thread the passes through? It's not happening. But look, Newcastle's midfield are good, and I'll repeat it myself there, but they got over the line, Arsenal. If they hadn't got over the line, and by the way, this is chance from the Voltemada pass. I mean, that was the title there, wasn't it?
Yeah, he lifted it over. The one save, big save of the game that David Raya had to make, which has helped him to keep yet another clean sheet this season, was that first half one from Sandro Tonali. I mean, they've got a fantastic defensive record this season anyway, haven't they, Arsenal? They've got the best one in the division. Is that going to be key to them seeing this through?
Yes, because it looks like they're not going to score a bag full of goals, which brings the sort of the if they end up level with City, I think City are going to win the title. I think City are going to have to drop points somewhere, it would look like. I mean, Arsenal can keep clean sheets, but I can't see where they're going to get more goals than Manchester City. I think currently now, City have got 2 more.
Yeah.
But City are in far better form right now from an attacking perspective. So, look, I think it's something that they're going to need to keep clean sheets. They're going to need to win every single game. They've got a chance for the title. The Opta stats pre-game today was 63% still to Arsenal. I'm not sure what they're seeing that I'm not, but...
That's a computer for you.
It's a computer, and computers sometimes are more... they can predict better than I can. So, yeah, I just think the defensive work is absolutely outstanding. But they need goals as well. They need goals, and I think that's something that ultimately, look, it's a long way to go yet in the sense of 4 games, 3, 4, 5 weeks. So it'll still play out quite a bit in this next few weeks, but they've got a big game here next Saturday against Fulham. Can they get 2 or 3? Can they make this crowd relax at least one weekend?
And how do they balance the demands of this with the Champions League? Because today we've seen Havertz go off and we've seen Eze go off injured, and that's always a concern when you're building up the games. And the Madrid one, even though Atletico's league form isn't good, that's not going to be easy, is it, over 2 legs?
Oh no, that'll be a big struggle. A team that suffocate you really in terms of the way in which they play. A manager and a crowd when they go there will be intense. Look, I think the only way, I mean, there's definitely going to be no prioritisation of a competition because they're in the 2 biggest competitions. You have to go for both. The only way this works for Arsenal is to keep momentum, keep winning. They have to go for it. They have to somehow take the sort of what would be the reins off and just go for it. Whilst that defensive balance stays in place, whilst that set piece sort of what would be organisation stays in place, they've got to be more free in their attacking play. They've got to get more free. They've got to sort of think about the fact that they can go and win. If you think about it, a glass half full, and you can go and be a Champions League winner and a Premier League winner in the season, rather than thinking, you know, I think at the moment they're thinking, we've got to win a league. I do think they're thinking that. I don't think they might be thinking right now, we've got to win a Champions League. They don't know how to win a Champions League, a lot of these players, but they've been so close in the title race, and they'll be so desperate not to fall short in that. I do think that Mikel Arteta has to go for every single game and not prioritise any over the other. but he knows that the Premier League is the one that's easier to win than the Champions League right now, I would say. It is. I just think the Champions League, I just think there are better teams in there than them. And look, it's a cup competition. They've got 3 games left and they've only got 4 left in the league. So you could argue that basically it's easy to win both. But I don't see them getting past Atletico Madrid and the other teams in the other semi-final. But I do see them having a chance with this.
So a word about Newcastle then, because you've already said how highly you rate their midfield, and yet we look at the league table and there they are down in 14th place. Questions have been raised about Eddie Howe's future. How do you see it from their perspective now?
Oh, it's a really disappointing season. Obviously, the transfer business at the end of the window in the summer was a real problem for them, wasn't it? Because they ended up with Voltemada and Visser, and that's just not paid off yet at all. And that's the difference right now. I think full faith in Eddie Howe, full trust in Eddie Howe. That's the way to go. They've got a really, really good manager. So where at some clubs it's easier to say, well, let's shift the manager and let's keep the players because they've got 5-year contracts, they've got 6-year contracts. But absolutely the other way around at Newcastle, I would think. I would think they'd be thinking, no, if we lost him, you know, we've lost an 8.5 out of 10 manager, someone who's a real solid performer, reliable, consistent, someone who's got a great attitude. So I think that basically now they've got a sort of what would be, you know, I'm sure hope they're sitting down with Eddie Howe, and I hope they're going through with basically a sort of like, right, these are the players I want you to shift for me, and these are the players I'm going to buy into for next season, and I want to get these 4 or 5 in, and I want our business done early. You know, whilst everyone's thinking about the World Cup and everyone's sort of what would be planning, you know, I want these players in. I'm hoping they're in a really sort of what would be sure period behind the scenes where they're really getting themselves sorted for next season already. Because for Newcastle to be where they are, they're a really good side. I actually like watching them. I mean, I really do. There's a lot there to like about that. They obviously didn't have any cutting edge today, but they could have had. I mean, Visser should have scored. You know, if that's Isak, he does score, doesn't he? You know what I mean? He does. So they're going to need to basically sort of back their manager properly. I think buy into him, back him. They do buy into him, obviously been there a long time, but almost like, you know, go again with him. Lean in, sort of really make the manager the guy that you believe in and say to the players, right, who wants to be on this bus? And that's what I'd do if I was Newcastle, because I think they've got one of the very best there, and I think he'll get them back up challenging for Champions League next season.
Newcastle are on 42 points, and it's a strange kind of season in the relegation battle, isn't it? Because Wolves and Burnley are down. But when you look at the others, I mean, we could this season have a scenario where a team gets to the magic 40-point mark and still goes down, because Forest must have thought they'd done themselves a power of good with their remarkable victory at Sunderland, but then West Ham and Spurs follow them by winning as well. It's an extraordinary race to avoid the drop. Yeah,
and I watched the first half of the game last night, and I mean, Sunderland helped Nottingham Forest, but then they helped themselves. It was a brilliant performance, and you're absolutely right. I don't know how they would have travelled back to Nottingham, but they must have travelled back thinking, we're okay. I went to bed last night thinking Nottingham Forest are okay. Still think they're okay, but less okay than 24 hours ago. And then obviously we were watching on these little screens here, weren't we, the West Ham and Tottenham stuff, and that was, yeah, it was, I mean, imagine what's going to be there. That's, I mean, we'll talk about the title race because that's where we are here today, but that West Ham, Tottenham, Forest dynamic in this next few weeks could be where the real thrill and excitement lies, because Tottenham down there, I mean, that league table when West Ham scored and Tottenham were 0-0 and they were 4 points clear, you're thinking, oh my God, if it finishes like this, and then obviously Tottenham get that goal, Doherty stays in, I don't know what he's doing back there, but he stays in, thankfully for Spurs fans, and they get that goal, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, right, okay, and then I think Everton equalised, didn't they?
Yeah.
Pretty quickly, and then West Ham score again. So, look, absolutely thrilling day in the relegation race, and probably more thrill than probably the title race right now, with obviously Manchester City playing in the FA Cup this weekend. Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen. No idea whatsoever. It's a flip a coin job.
I mean, you mentioned the FA Cup. Leeds, as we talk, haven't played their FA Cup side, but they're on 40 points and probably thought they'd done enough, and maybe they still haven't.
I thought Leeds were out of it. Let's have a look. Here we go.
Well, Spurs would need 2 wins to level their points.
Yeah, but I think Leeds' fixtures, are quite good. Let me have a look.
Well, one of them actually is against Tottenham.
Yeah, I think Leeds' fixtures overall. Let me have a look. Leeds' fixtures are they've got Burnley at home. Leeds. They've got Tottenham. They've got Brighton at home. They've got West Ham. Yeah, I think they'll beat Burnley at home, Leeds, which would then take them to a point whereby I don't think that they'll get caught then. So I think Leeds are okay. I think Nottingham Forest probably need one more win, but I think they're okay. I do think it's West Ham or Spurs now. And I think the way Nottingham Forest played last night and the sort of emphatic nature of their victory will give them confidence to think that they're okay as well. And Leeds as well. I think Leeds, once they went to Old Trafford and won, I thought that was a point whereby psychologically they were going to survive from it because their fixtures going into the run-in were more comfortable than the rest.
Well, we're going to be following all the twists and turns very keenly. So, Gary, thanks for joining us as ever.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.